Morning, everyone. It's so good to have you with us again this morning as we continue in our series, Better Late Than Never. And this series is all about God restoring areas of your life that you maybe feel are too far gone, or some areas that are areas that cannot be salvaged maybe, or maybe some areas that you maybe don't know how you are able to move forward in those areas, and how God is able to equip you and empower you to fulfill some of those things that you have planned for 2025, or maybe some things in your life that you just need God to speak to you about and lead you in and give you wisdom for, to be able to move forward in that area of your life. And this morning, I know that there might be some of you listening that are maybe trying to work out how you can move forward in your career, and there's some decisions that you've made in the past and maybe feel like now it is over for you. How do you move forward? How do you have a career? How do you move towards things that you're called to do, that fulfill you, that help you to run the race that God has created you for? And so I'm going to look at a story in Scripture this morning, and that story is about John Mark. And John Mark is someone who we pick up the story at a point where he was following Paul, and he was going on journeys with Paul and the different people and disciples in the early church, and trying to go and share the gospel of Jesus and the good news to people around the different cities and towns and areas in Scripture. And at one point, John Mark decides that he doesn't want to continue, right? And we see how Paul and Barnabas have this massive argument, and some scholars say that argument was to a point where maybe it even ended up in a fist fight between the Apostle Paul and Barnabas. So this was a massive discussion about whether John Mark should continue with Paul on his journey. And ultimately they decide, or Paul decides, that John Mark is someone that cannot continue with him. And they say that, one of the reasons for that was maybe because John Mark was scared to move forward with all the persecution that was going on with all the Christians and everything that was happening at that time in Scripture. And so Paul says that he cannot continue with him. And the New Testament ultimately then continues following the journey of Paul. And so you could think at that point, like maybe some of you are feeling right now in your lives, that John Mark has completely lost his opportunity to do what he's called to do, or completely lost his opportunity to go and share the gospel to the ends of the earth, and do something that impacts generations for the rest of time, right? That is such an opportunity that John Mark had, to be able to be part of building the early church, and that eternal reward that was waiting for him if he took this opportunity to journey with the Apostle Paul in establishing the early church. And he's turned around and he said, man, I'm not going to do this, and he battled to move forward. And Paul basically says, cool, you can't go with us. And what's so beautiful in Scripture is that, like I said to you, that John Mark could feel like, man, that's it, he's done, his journey is over. But later on, way later on in Scripture, in Timothy, Paul writes and he says, the only person that is with me is Luke, so please send John Mark to me, because he is useful to me, because he is useful to me. And that is so encouraging and so important to us, because again, you might be feeling like you have completely messed up, you have missed your chance, you have missed your opportunity. For many people that looks like, I'm too old to change some things in my life now. I made some decisions when I'm young, I made some decisions now, I've made my bed and I must lie in my bed. In the same way, John Mark's life looked like it was going in that direction, but something happened where Paul now sends for him, and he says he is useful to me. He doesn't only send for him and say, man, send him, it would be cool to have him. He's like, he's useful to me. So I want to encourage you this morning that God can change your situation, no matter how far gone it feels like that situation is in your life. If there's some things that you feel that have made that bed in your life, so that your life is now dictated by a bad decision, or you're not moving forward in an area, that God can restore that God can give you direction and wisdom and grace and favor to restore the situation, so you can be useful to Him, so you can be useful in the things that you have been created to do. So this morning, I want to encourage you once again to go away and ask God for wisdom, and ask God to lead you and guide you and help you to know how to move forward in areas that you might feel are dead and gone and broken in your life. Well, we love you, we're praying for you, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning.